What's up guys, welcome back. We're going to be solving another question in today's video, and we have the square root of x squared plus 2x minus 3 all to the power of x minus 1 is equal to 1, and we have to figure out the value of the x. So first of all, we have a to the b is equal to 1, and we have to figure out all the scenarios that we have in here to make this one on the right side of the equation. And let's go over the scenarios that this might happen. So the first scenario is when we have a to the power of 0. That's going to give us 1. So basically our b is 0. That's one condition. The other condition that we have in here is when we have the 1 to the power of b, regardless of the b, we're gonna get 1. So in this condition, we have a is equal to 1, and there's one more scenario that we're gonna get that 1, but let's just put a pause on the last scenario. Maybe you guys can think about it, and we'll get back to that scenario later on when we're solving this. So we're gonna start with all of these conditions. So the first scenario that we have, let's start with the a is equal 1, and let's see how this is gonna happen. So basically this is our a and x minus 1 is b. So in order to have a is equal to 1, we have x squared plus 2x minus 3 is equal to 1. So we're gonna do the power of 2 on each side in order to get rid of this square root. So we have x squared plus 2x minus 3 is equal to 1. And we're going to bring 1 on the other side of the equation, so it will be minus 1. So basically x squared plus 2x minus 3 minus 1 minus 4 is equal to 0. Looking at this, we'll see that we have a quadratic equation where our a is 1, our b is 2, and our c is minus 4. So if we want to find the x, we basically have minus b plus or minus the square root of discriminant, or b squared minus 4 times a times c divided by 2a. So minus b is minus 2 plus or minus the square root of b squared is 4 minus 4 times 1 times 4 divided by 2, and minus 4 here. So basically we have for x minus 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 plus 16, which is 20 divided by 2. We're going to simplify the answer. So we have minus 2 plus or minus, instead of 20, we can do 4 times 5 divided by 2. This 4 can get out of this square root. So basically we have minus 2 plus or minus 2 square root of 5, 2 square root of 5 divided by 2. So we have 2x in here, which will be minus 1 plus or minus square root of 5. Okay, these are the two answers that we found from this scenario where we can get our a is equal to 1. But we have to keep in mind that we have a square root in here, and this expression has to be greater or equal than 0. So we have to figure out the condition to satisfy this, because we cannot have negative number under the square root. So we have basically x squared plus 2x minus 3. This has to be greater or equal than 0. And if we want to find the roots of here, we have two numbers that multiply minus 3 and add minus 2. So those two numbers are plus 3 and minus 1. So our equation can be written as x plus 3 times x minus 1 equals 0, which means we have two roots. One of them is 1, the other one is minus 3. And in this kind of situation, when we want to have our equation be greater or equal than 0, since our a in this quadratic formula is 1, which is greater than 0, that means the parabola opens upward. In order to have our quadratic equation positive, our x has to be greater or equal than 1 or less or equal than minus 3. So let's see what we have in here. So one of our roots was, let's call it x1, minus 1 plus square root of 5. We know a square root of 5 is 2 point something, so we'll get 1 point something for x1, which is greater than 1. So we're good to go with this answer. And our x2 was basically minus 1 minus the square root of 5. Again, this will be minus 3 point something, so something 2, so less than minus 3. So both of these two answers are good. So we have two answers right here from one of the situations, from this scenario where we have a is equal to 1. So the other scenario is pretty easy. We have to have b is equal to 0, meaning our b was x minus 1 is equal to 0. So our x is 1, but we have to keep in mind that we have some scenarios in here that we are trying to avoid. One of them is when we have 0 to the power of 0. The answers that give us these scenarios also not acceptable. So because this will be something like 0 over 0, which is not acceptable, or when we have 0 in the denominator. So if we look at 1, we'll see that 1 will be something that's going to give us, so we previously saw that x is equal to 1 is something that gonna make our a also 0 too. So we're trying to avoid that, meaning that this answer is not acceptable. And there's this third scenario that I discussed at the beginning of the question, which we're gonna go over now. And the other scenario that we have in here that I left blank at the beginning of the question is when we have minus 1 to the power of an even number. That's going to give us also 1, 2. So that's another possibility of getting that one that we were looking for. But if we look at this, we'll see that this condition does not work in here based on what we discussed in the previous steps. We are looking to have our expression, we're trying to have something in here greater or equal than 0, because we have the square root of something, and if this will be equal to minus 1, that's going to defeat the purpose from the beginning. So no answers from this condition too. So the only two answers that we have is what we got from here, where we try to have the number in the condition that we have our a is equal to 1, but we have to keep in mind that our x belong to real numbers and cannot make the square root the negative numbers. So that's going to give us complex answers, which will be out of context of this question. So yeah, hope you guys find this one helpful. Let me know how many of these strategies you could come up with when you were solving this, and feel free to drop your questions in the comment section. I'd be happy to answer those. You guys take care. I'll see you in the next video. Have a good one.